with us Paul Palmer from Accord Legal Services. Good afternoon, Paul.
Good afternoon.
Good to have you with us. And I will introduce you a bit more formally in a minute, Paul. But Paul's going to be talking to us this lunchtime about his business journey throughout 2020 and prior to last year. For those of you who are new to us here at Lunch and Learn, we have two sessions, one on a Monday, one on a Thursday. On Mondays, it's all about educational content and how we can move our businesses forwards. On Wednesday, we're catching up with local business owners of all sorts of different industries to learn about their journey and how we can support and learn about the challenges and the successes they've had over the last 12 months. And it's great to have you with us this lunchtime, Paul. We are broadcasting live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and we've also got people joining us on the Zoom platform. If you have any questions for myself or Paul this lunchtime, please do put them in the Q&A section on Zoom and the question and answer box, or put them in the comments box on LinkedIn or on Facebook. And we'll make sure that if we can't reach out to you during the webinar, we'll reach out afterwards. But we have got my colleague Pam, who's also checking for any questions and comments as we go through. That's all the admin stuff, Paul. Let's tell us about you and tell us a bit about yourself and Accord Legal Services. What is it you do?
Yeah, well, Accord Legal Services are a bespoke will writing and estate planning company. Basically, we don't do anything with divorce law, criminal law, conveyance and all that type of thing. We are bespoke will writers and estate planners, which basically means that we look after people's affairs as they're going through life. So making sure that they've got their wills in place, making sure that they've got any trusts or anything like that they might need, and lasting power of attorney, all that type of thing. Anything to do with planning your estate, we can take care of. And as you can see from the slide, we're members of the Institute of Professional Will Writers. The trading standards marked there as well, and more importantly in our industry we're also STEP qualified, which is the Society of Trust and Estate Practitioners. That's a recognition which is a worldwide recognition, which puts us on the top drawer, if you like. Our CEO, she's on a board of legal service providers, which makes sure that any wills from solicitors, building societies, banks, are all toeing the line, shall I say, and making sure that the legislation is always in place. So that's Accord Legal Services.
Brilliant. Well, it's great to have you with us today, Paul. I'll leave your contact details up there on the screen for a moment, and we'll put them up at the end for our listeners as well. But I'm thinking back to 2020. We're going to talk a bit about your journey prior to that in a minute. But for all of us, we've been on a very personal journey through the last 12 months, haven't we? Both in business and as individuals. Now, I guess for all of us, it's made us stop and think about where we are in life, where we want to be, what we've done in life, and think about, those things that perhaps we haven't paid attention to, such as planning our estates and planning for our future. Particularly as we've seen some really tragic stories around us in every area of the country and around the world. So it's, I'm sure it's been a challenging time for you as well. You've probably heard some really, difficult stories and circumstances throughout the last 12 months, Paul.
Yeah, it is. I mean, especially with the COVID situation. I mean, this time 18 months ago, there was 100,000 people that thought they'd still be with us, and that's just in this country. Yeah. It's just making sure that those people are looked after. But what it's actually done, COVID over the last 12 months, it's affected a lot of businesses, not just in my industry, but the conference and event world, for argument's sake. I mean, that's just flat on its back at the moment. Nobody can have a conference, nobody can go to an event. Glastonbury's cancelled again this year, so it's affected a lot of people. And with our point of view, what we've actually done is making sure that everybody's catered for. And with something like this, it kind of brings everything close to home. And what I mean by that is that you obviously know somebody knows somebody that knows somebody that COVID's affected badly. I mean, I'm personal to me as well, because I mean, I've got two close friends that are struggling with COVID at the moment. I've got my sister-in-law's cousin who is face down at the QE hospital in Birmingham in an induced coma because of COVID. So these type of things do give people a bit of a poke in the ribs. To say, look, I've got to do something about this, because if they don't, things are going to go wrong. I need to take care of my affairs. I need to make sure it's okay. And what we started to do at the beginning of last year was that we've all recognised the worth behind people like the NHS, the forces out there, police force, ambulance, paramedics, all these type of people, and even down to shopkeepers, bank tellers, building societies, all these people that are working on the front line as key workers. What we've actually done for those people is that we've launched a campaign back last March to give these people the opportunity to have a free basic will, because we wanted to give something back as a company, because without these guys, most of the UK would have fell apart anyway. These guys are keeping us ticking. They're keeping us where we should be, providing us with the services, providing us with food, and providing us with the care that we need in the hospitals, which is so important. I mean, it hit everybody yesterday with regards to Colonel Tom. I think he was everybody's hero.
Absolutely.
He's no longer with us because of this dreaded virus. I mean, he did what he did this year, and to lose him in such a way after what he's been through in the war and what he's gone through now, and raising over £30 million for such a good cause to help us through this pandemic is just amazing. So we've been giving things back to the key workers through our campaign, and it's been a phenomenal success. I mean, there's a lot of people out there. We've had over 70,000 inquiries, which has kept us busy over the last 12 months. So much so that, my general work remit is going to see people in their homes or in their offices, and probably seeing 3, maybe 4 people a day, but driving around to them. Now, it's been tipped on its head this year, because since last March, I've practically been working from where you see me now. Most people only know me from the shoulders up that have dealt with me from last year. It's just one of those things.
You and I, you are a good example, Paul. We've never met in person, but we've been working together for over a year now, but only ever seen each other in the box on the screen.
This is as close as we've got, and that counts for a lot of other people as well. But I mean, the benefit of having so much correspondence through the Free Will campaign and working from home means that instead of driving around to see 3 or 4 people a day, at its peak, I was talking to 10 to 12 people a day, on the hour, every hour. Now, it's a lot of hard work, but it's giving something back to the people that deserve it, really. And that's where we've done a lot of our business over the last 12 months, and we're continuing to do it, and we'll continue to do it while this pandemic's going on, at the very least.
He's done some amazing work over the last 12 months, Paul. And I will come back to that in a minute, because I want to talk a bit more about it. But just for those listeners who are perhaps, they've had a challenging, you alluded to it earlier on, Paul. There's many clients I've worked with, and they generally fall into 2 camps. So those industries that have, they've done well by being maybe forced in some ways to pivot the business and look at how they can do things differently. And as you alluded to, there are those industries still, earlier on last year, it was a soft play industry. The hospitality industry, the retail industry, and now we see, you've mentioned the entertainment and the exhibition industry as well. There's all sorts of businesses I can think of that are really struggling. But in terms of your industry, what was it like prior to the first lockdown? So if we go back to the end of 2019 or 2019 as a year, how have you changed, and what have you done differently from how things were prior to the COVID pandemic?
Well, as I touched base, I mean, earlier, it's a case of my general run of the day is making appointments to go out and see people. I have contacts through various building societies and other institutes that make appointments for me, which is nice and easy. Make sure I go there, use their office space, all that type of thing. So it's literally going to work, but in somebody else's environment. And that's generally where a lot of my business was coming from. And it was good in respect of those people have already been warmed up by a building society, by an introducer, by a financial advisor or a mortgage broker. And it made life a lot easier. Although you spent a lot of time driving around, and the focus has now been pretty much so working from home, which everybody's doing. And I suppose in a nutshell, I've gone from working at a pace where I was doing this much work for a reward this size, and that's kind of tipped it on its head a little bit this year. but the benefits behind that will be that the client base has built up phenomenally over the last 12 months because of all the key workers, and these key workers are now starting to come back once I've done some bits and pieces for them. Done something for a lady the other day I spoke to 6 months ago, and she upgrades to something else that she needed that she couldn't afford at the time. So there's going to be an ongoing influx of business from those key workers. But the people behind the scenes at Accord Legal Services, especially our managing director, Sarah Williams, she has been just working tirelessly on our behalf to create new avenues and new infrastructure of bringing more business in. And we've got some big players that have seen us and literally put ourselves on the map now. We're one of the biggest will writing companies in the country, if not the biggest. I mean, there's nearly 200 of me dotted around the country, from Scotland to the Isle of Wight and anywhere in between. So she's put everything out there to a lot of people, and there's a lot of people just contacting us because they now want us to deal with them directly for their workforce. There's quite a lot of people that are coming to us as opposed to us trying to generate going to see them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I reflect on conversations I had with colleagues actually at Action Coach at Christmas 2019 going into 2020, and we were talking about, do we venture into delivering services online, digital webinars, digital workshops. And I was saying, my response at the time, for being honest, Paul, was I don't want to be online. I don't want to, I want to see people face to face. That's how I do my business. Little did I know what was around the corner. But I was having a similar conversation with clients and with colleagues this Christmas of 2020. And our conclusion was that now we've got the business online, why would we ever take it offline? We've pivoted the business completely. And I've seen a lot of my clients have done the same. How are you feeling about having to change the way you do business? And what of those changes will you keep in place, and what might you revert back to when the lockdown restrictions ease, Paul?
I suppose for the majority of my clients, if you want to call it when it used to be normal, if we're ever going to get back to a normal, or if there's a new normal, I haven't got a clue. I suppose that depends on when we're all going to get jabbed and we can go out to play again, basically.
Indeed.
But from my perspective, my clientele tends to be 50, 60 years of age plus, sometimes older than that. I have just, I've got some clients that are actually centurions. My oldest client's 110. I've got another client 103. So, we're living a lot longer these days as well. But from my perspective, I prefer to do things face to face to that type of client, simply because they like the face to face. They like the empathy that you can create with them. A lot of them are not savvy on the computer anyway. So although a lot of my work is now done on Zoom, like this meeting, but when you're speaking to somebody in Zoom, it kind of eases it a little bit because they can actually see who they're dealing with. Phone calls, you tend to struggle a little bit more because you're just trying to tell people over the phone what they need to do, what is best for them, because everything is bespoke to the individual. Nobody's ever the same, and everybody's circumstances are different. So it's trying to relay that over the phone to people. Zoom makes it softer. Face to face, even better. I mean, before the lockdown, all my meetings were face to face. There was 99.9% of everything I did was face to face, and now 95% is using technology. So for me personally, I can't wait for it to get back to the new normal or the normal, so I can go and do what I enjoy doing, which is face to face consultation.
And I was surprised actually when you just said, Paul, about most of your clients, or majority, are sort of 50 to 60 years of age. With the pandemic, and where I started at the beginning of the conversation about people being forced to face challenges and the certainty that comes to us all at some point in our lives, has your age of your clients not come down? As I think, dare I say, to my own age brackets, the 40s to 50s and maybe the 30s plus.
Very much so. I mean, historically, been writing wills now for over 30 years, and historically, anybody that I was talking to, and this is a bit of a generalisation, are 50 plus, because that's the ideal client for me personally. However, I've got clients from 18 upwards. And a lot of the people that have come forward during the pandemic, some of them are, struggling nurses who are single mums, for argument's sake. They need to put their wills in place, which we've done for them, and again, free of charge. But it's from a whole walk of life. So if the averages were above 50, the last 12 months have brought those averages down to maybe about 30 years of age, in all honesty, because there's a lot of people I'm speaking to that have done their university bit. They've gone on to be a nurse, doctor, paramedic, whatever they're going to be, and that has brought the age bracket down considerably.
Yeah.
So it's really anybody above the age of 18 really that I deal with, and it's all over the place. But that's how it's changed dramatically over the last 12 months.
And has the last 12 months, Paul, given you the opportunity? Have you had time to think about strategically where your business is going and how you might, where you want your business to be maybe in 5-10 years time? And what sort of consideration have you given to that? Have you had that opportunity? Have you just been flat out delivering the business rather than working on it?
Well, I've always worked hard so I can play hard in one respect.
Yes.
And prior to the lockdown, I was doing considerably well. And the lockdown has kind of influenced me to take a little bit of a step back, although still full on, 12, 14 hours a day talking to people. But it's give you a bit of perspective going forward that you just need to make sure that everything's in place. For me personally, from a business side of view, I know what I want to do in the next 5 years, which is build up my business to such a degree where potentially it could turn into the phone calls and more of the Zoom thing because of all the clientele that I've now got in the file cabinet, if you like, because that like you say, has brought the age bracket down. So it's not necessarily going out to see the more mature people in our society to help them with their estates, which is different to somebody in the 20s. I mean, in the 20s, they're just starting the circle of life. In the 50s, 60s, 70s, and even 80s, they're making sure that their circle of life is taken care of. So they're making sure that it's going to be passed down to their loved ones as opposed to a third party dictating to them where it's going to go.
Yes, and there's people in between those ages where the part of their life changes for whatever reason, and that's the important point at which also to go and check what you've written down in your will, I guess, or make one if you haven't.
Well, that's it. I mean, 4 out of 5 people still don't have a will because of the nature of the beast. They don't want to talk about death. They don't want to talk about that type of thing. And predominantly, that's why the ages that I'm talking about, the 20s to the 50s, if you like, they're still living the life at the moment. They're still bringing the kids up. They're still going out to work. They've got the big mortgage to pay. So their priorities are slightly different. But now the pandemic has hit a lot of people. Their priorities have changed as well. And that's why a lot more younger people are, coming on board and making sure that at least, although they've started in their early years of their circle of life, they still need to put things in place.
Yeah. Now, you and I, Paul, we met at the early stages of the lockdown. As I said, we've never actually met in person physically, and I look forward to that day when we can share a pint together at the Lost and Found in Birmingham. One of our fellow networking colleagues who manages that establishment. I've lost my track of where I was going with that. Yeah, so you joined a networking group at the beginning of lockdown, and I'm presuming there was a change in strategy for you at Accord Legal Services in terms of how you're going to promote the business and to generate more business. What was the thinking process there?
Well, I was approached by the organisation that we're both involved with, BNI, about 15 years ago, and at the time it wasn't for me.
Right.
And one of our mutual colleagues at BNI, I've known her for a few years because we're involved with in the same town that we both live in, a little networking group, and she just said to me, "Why don't you come along to BNI?" So I thought I'll give it a go, and here we are. I've been here ever since. At the time, pre-lockdown, it wasn't something I was looking for. I didn't need it, in all honesty, in my opinion. It wasn't another avenue I needed to go down. But in all honesty, I'm glad I did, because it's broadened my horizons to more, if you like, the corporate world, because my world doing the wills and the trusts is more on a domestic basis, seeing individuals in their own homes, but seeing more people on a business level has definitely broadened my horizons. I mean, hence why I'm talking to you today, because if I hadn't joined BNI, we wouldn't even be having this conversation.
No, absolutely. And just for the benefits of our viewers who are thinking, gosh, I haven't done my will, or what sort of process is it? Is it a lengthy process, Paul? What do people do?
I mean,
what's the starting point?
The process as it is at the moment is that whether it's a phone call or a Zoom, because that's how we do things these days for the foreseeable future, is that we simply create that rapport, which you do with this type of thing, with the other person on the other end of the phone, and start to take their personal details down. And we do get to the nitty gritty, because the more we know about them, we need to find out about themselves, what they've got, and predominantly where they want it to end up. And if people are looking at doing the basics behind that, which is just a straightforward will, they can put their wishes, because a will at the end of the day is a comprehensive range of wishes, that if it's a couple, they're going to reflect each other's wishes. And then when the first one dies, it passes to each other generally. And then it will pass down to the children generally. However, when people have got their own house, assets, whether it's monetary or other, they might need something more than just a basic will. So the initial process of the will is pretty straightforward. It's on the phone, it's a 20-25 minute exercise. If they've got something more, if they own their own property and they want to do something else, it's more of a lengthy process, and it's sometimes 2 or 3 meetings on the phone, on Zoom, and all told, you're looking at the whole process taking anything between 6 and 14 weeks, depending on what they're doing. And because we're also governed by other institutions that we have to deal with other things that we have to take care of on people's behalves.
And Paul, tell me, you've done a lot of will writing over the last 15 years you've been in your industry, but over the last 12 months, you've done a lot of wills for key workers, which you've referred to a number of times. And tell me a bit about this award that you've had.
Well, the award that we had was because of what we did for the NHS workers and the like, and it was given to us by the British Chamber of Commerce, and it was a big tap on the back for us because of the effort and the work that we've done to give something back to those type of people. Because without those, as I said before, it's an award that has given us the best at our field, doing what we do for those people. And it was nice to get that tap on the back from somebody like the British Chamber of Commerce. It's something that we cherish, and we're just grateful that it's been recognised. Not that they were after the recognition, but it was nice to get that little label.
And it sort of leads me into my next question. So, absolutely fantastic work you've done. Congratulations, and well deserved for you and your colleagues at Accord Legal Services. And as you reflect back on 2020, I'm sure that's one of the moments that you'd be most proud of, and really, pleased you made that decision to offer that service to those workers. Is there anything else that you think, if you were to go through that, and hopefully none of us would go through the same situation again, but if you were to go back and start the year again, you'd say, yes, I'd absolutely do that again. It was the right decision. And is there anything you'd perhaps do differently?
If you're saying doing it differently with the circumstances that were surrounding us, to be honest, there wasn't much more that we could possibly do, because you couldn't go out and generate the contacts as you were doing in the past. The contacts were coming from things like this, social media, social contacts, and a result of that, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and everything else that we advertise on. We use the rainbow of the NHS as an advertising campaign to bring the people forward, and it just ticked the boxes for them. And as I say, they had somewhere to go, as opposed to, I must do this will, and then forgetting about it. When you have got 5 minutes yourself and you're trawling through Facebook and you put something like that on it, the keyword is NHS or key worker, and you are a NHS or a key worker of other sorts, and that's come up in front of you, it kind of gives you that impetus there and then to fill in the little form and say, yes, I'd like some information, and it went from there. So there's not much more that we could have done with the limitations that we've had over the last 12 months.
You referred a couple of times there, Paul, to social media. Is that something you were doing prior to lockdown, or is that a strategy for your marketing strategy for your business that you've sort of?
It's probably something I'm going to take on board more so going forward, because it's been working. And if you like, I'm a little bit old school, pen and paper and go and see people. That's generally me. And when people say, oh, you need to do this and you need to that, and put it on the screen so people can see it, I've been hesitant in the past, but I am involved with doing more of it these days. I mean, this is not the first time I've been on screen to a webinar. I've done several of these now, which have been beneficial all round. It's just making and creating awareness, and that's what the backroom staff at the head office have done. They've constantly put different things online on different social media platforms, and it's put us where we are today.
Brilliant, Paul. I've got a couple of questions that have come in from our social media pages.
Okay.
As we're asking. They're more legal, reference, and business related. So here they are for you. I've got one from one of our callers, Simon. He's saying a lot of people think they're too young to have a will, or they have nothing. What advice would you give them?
I get this quite often when we are speaking to people for the first time, and if you have, for argument's sake, you're young. You don't think you've got anything, but you might have children. Now, one of the most important things to do within your will, if you have children under the age of 18 years, is make sure you've got your guardians in place, because a lot of people fall foul and think, well, if something happens to me, that's fine. Mom and dad will look after them. Brothers and sisters will look after them. It's not always as cut and dry as that. The first thing that happens if parents disappear or a single parent disappears, and the child's left on its own, social services get involved. And if social services get involved, it can take a while until your own brother, your own mother, father, whoever needs to be vetted before the child is passed on to you, which is, the land we live in at the moment. It's one of those things that is very important, but putting it in your will, things are done much quicker. You've actually instigated that these are the people that I need to look after my kids if something untoward happens to me. So, when people are saying I'm too young, it's normally that aspect that they need to take care of first, even if they've got nothing else, so they've just got children. But if they are young, free and single, as I say, there may not be anything that they have got. But again, the earlier you do these things, the more beneficial it is for you in the long run, simply because it can become more expensive the longer you leave it.
Brilliant. Hopefully, Simon, that helps to ask or answer your question. I've also got a Sarah who's asked a question as well. A quick question from her. She's saying, what is a lasting power of attorney? Paul, I'm sure maybe I can't answer it, but I'm sure it's something you would know all about.
Right. A lasting power of attorney, there's various lasting power of attorney. I mean, a lasting power of attorney basically means that there's the property and affairs to start with. That's generally the one that most people go for, simply because it takes care of your pounds, shillings and pence, and generally property and all that type of thing. So let's say, for argument's sake, Sarah, you were incapable of either looking after your finances, whether that's mentally or physically, then you're going to nominate somebody that can actually do that for you, as if it was you yourself in person doing it. So for argument's sake, if you needed money from the bank and you couldn't get out, this person can go and get it for you. Now, they can only get things for your benefit, not for theirs, so they can't just empty your bank balance or anything like that. But it might be, you might have gone away for a long period of time. You might have, gone touring around Europe or something, or gone to Australia for a month, and you might have a flood at home. You've got somebody back at home then that can take care of that for you. But predominantly, it's when you've lost capability in some way that you can't get out. Now, that's the property and affairs side of things. There is one similar, which is the health and welfare, and dealing with the NHS. This is one that they have more often than not, because this is nominating a family member that can give instruction on your behalf, should you not be able to, for things like life sustaining treatment, medication, or even down to if you are needing some kind of assistance with care, you've got the health and welfare attorney that can actually do that for you. And it's normally a very close friend, or predominantly a very close loved one, brothers, sisters, moms, dads, that type of thing. Or if you're old enough, sometimes people use their own children. So it's generally keeping it all in the family, but giving somebody the authority to make sure that works.
Brilliant. Paul, many of the clients that I'm working with here at Action Coach, or we're working with, are business owners, or all of them are business owners in some respect. In terms of their wills and their personal affairs, how would that be managed, and what advice would you give to somebody who's got not just their personal affairs, but the business running along the side? How would that be managed?
Well, I mean, going back to the lasting power of attorney, there is actually a third lasting power of attorney, which is the business lasting power of attorney. It caters for that type of thing. If
Right.
If you've got somebody that can that is a key person that has a role within your company, and all of a sudden they can't do that role, you need to cover that by doing a lasting power of attorney for exactly the same reasons I mentioned for the other two. You've actually got somebody in place that can keep running your business as you wanted them to, on your behalf. So you're there in mind, but not in soul, as it were, to make sure the business is still running accordingly to your specification, or wherever your business is.
And in terms of, should that day come where you're no longer with us in this world, in terms of a will, does that affect anything to do with the business, or is it literally personal assets only? And what are your thoughts?
It all depends. I mean, some people's main assets could be their business, and they need to put it generally into some kind of trust that it's going to the people that they want it to go to, because if they've got a business which is quite profitable, there's going to be assets there, and anything with an asset attached to your name is judged and looked at in various ways by various people, including the taxman and all that type of thing. So you have to make sure that you've got the right things in place going forward. It's just careful estate planning at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I think the importance, from what I'm hearing, Paul, is about planning ahead, as much as you can. I think the one thing 2020 for me is, many of my clients has shown us, is we never quite know what's coming around the corner. So I'm saying to my clients, always plan for change from a business perspective. Plan for change in every aspect of your business. And I presume you're saying exactly the same, Paul, but on a personal level more than anything else. Plan for change. You don't know what's coming and when. You
just don't know. It's like I said at the beginning of the meeting. 100,000 people thought they'd be with us 18 months ago, and for whatever reason, Absolutely. They're now not, and that's just potentially COVID related, and that's just the UK. It is a sad state of affairs we're going through at the moment. You don't know what's around the corner. People think they're living forever. The younger clientele, which is why we tend to deal with, or I personally have found that dealing with the older clientele, they've done the walk of life, if you like, and they now need to make sure that they're heading towards their more mature or twilight years. They've got everything in place. Younger people, before COVID, didn't necessarily think that way, because I'm young, I'm in my 20s, I'm in my 30s, nothing's happening to me at the moment. But again, you don't know what's around the corner. For those who remember people like Jay Goody, I mean, she was 27 when she passed away. You don't know what's around the corner. Michael Jackson just turned 50. You don't know what's going to affect you, and when it's going to affect you, and how it's going to affect you. There's lots of things that life is very precious at the end of the day. And although it's precious, and you want to build up whatever estate you want to do, whatever empire you want to build for yourself, at the end of the day, you are going to jump on your cloud. You're going to leave it behind, but you don't want to leave a mess behind. You want to make sure that you've got everything in its place, and make sure it's going to the right people, and not a third party dictating to your kids while you're not there that they can't have it.
And planning ahead, whatever the circumstances, can ensure the continuity of that business. I don't know much about inheritance tax, Paul, but any thoughts or comments about when people do or don't have to pay inheritance tax, and how that can impact the legacy left behind.
Yeah, I mean, this is going back down to doing a basic will, because what a lot of people think is, oh, I've done my will, now everything's sorted. And if you've got a house and money in the bank, generally, in most areas, people do go above the threshold where they have to pay tax. And it's, again, forgive me, but depending on what part of the country you're living in, it's different for every person. When you've got more than £325,000 as an individual in your estate, anything above and beyond that is potentially going to be subject to tax. And it's not just a little tax, it'll be taxed at 40%. So anything above your 325 allowance will be taxed at 40%. Now, it's different for married couples, cohabiting couples, again, different. A lot of people have the misconception where I've got this common law relationship and everything's going to go to my other half and everything's going to be fine. It's not the case. We have some antiquated laws that means that you've got your 325 and that's pretty much your limit. Married couples can use each other's allowance. All of a sudden, they've got £650,000 worth as the limit. So it's different for everybody, and everybody's circumstances are different. But the taxman will have it if he can. And unless you know about these things, especially for married couples who like to use each other's allowances, when the time comes, if nobody tells them, the allowances are lost and the tax is paid. And we see this time in and time again of people who think they've got a will and that's all I need. And a lot of time these days, it's not like 40, 50 years ago when a lot of people lived in rented accommodation and they didn't have their own house. The majority of people now, over the years have bought their council houses, which have become their property, and they passed it on to their kids, etc., etc. And those kids are now ready to pass it on to their kids. So by default, everybody's estates are getting larger. It's like, take John and Mary here. They've got their estate. They've got 2 kids. Their estate's 500,000, let's say. Between them as a married couple, they haven't really got any worries about inheritance tax at the moment. However, by default, John and Mary are going to inherit from possibly mum and dad in years to come. So straight away, their inheritance, which they're going to pass on to the kids, which they think is here, has all of a sudden swelled to here. And because it's swelling to there, a lot more planning is needed. And that's why one of the reasons I say planning early is key for a lot of people, because the earlier you do it, the more you can put into things like trust to prevent ongoing potential tax implications. And again, another big factor is probate fees as well, because people don't realise that, especially on the second death, if you like, so when the second spouse disappears, potentially there can be a lot of probate to pay, and that can run into the tens of thousands as well. And people don't realise that. They just think, oh, it's okay, it's going to go there. But once you actually go and want to get mum and dad's inheritance, it's not always as straightforward as people think.
So it's really important to get really good advice. I'm saying to all my clients all the time, plan for change, especially as a business. Many business owners, the business is their vehicle for whatever they want and have achieved in their personal lives, whether it's homes, other things. It's really important, isn't it, Paul, just to make sure we plan for change and get that really good advice. And I think 2020 has really shown us the importance of doing that. We don't know what's coming around the corner.
I think everybody's had a poke in the ribs with that sharp stick, whether they've had their old will for years and they need it renewing, or whether they're just thinking about it now for the first time, or not necessarily for the first time, but a time when they know they need to do something, because we live in a society where, let's say, not everybody plays ball, and because of that, the ball's bouncing all over the place, and if that ball hits you, you could find yourself, in the mire as such, with this dreaded disease. You've just got to take care of yourself and take care of the people around you.
Absolutely. Now, Paul, I'm conscious we've been about 40 minutes, which is fantastic. I want to let our listeners go and get some lunch in a minute. But before we do, you've talked a lot about your offer for NHS staff, key workers. What is it? What is that offer, and how can people access it? And we've got your contact details up on the screen.
Well, contact details on the screen. All they need to do is contact me via those details. and drop me a line. If they're a key worker, I'm more than happy to have a chat with them. And it's as simple as that. If they're a key worker and it's a provable key working establishment, like an NHS, like a lorry driver, somebody working in Sainsbury's, these are all the type of people that are key workers. If you're a factory worker and you still have to go to work, you're not necessarily a key worker. So there is a line. It's not for everybody, but it is for a very big number of people. They just need to contact me. I'll be happy to talk with them. And just a chat is always free, always free. It's only if they want to do business of above and beyond, like a lasting power of attorney or something like that, then the pound sign's attached to it. But everybody's different. There's nothing bespoke to say, oh, you must do this in order to get your free will. If you're a key worker, I'll be delighted to have a chat to you and give you the free service along with your free legal document.
Brilliant. Thank you, Paul. And it reminds me of this gentleman here, the quote that he says, Tiger Woods, he says, no matter how tough you think you are, you can't do this on your own. And I think that, reflects in every aspect of life. There is people like yourself, Paul, like ourselves, who are out there to help and support as many as we can at the moment, business owners, individuals, to make sure we all get through this challenging time and get out the other side with our affairs and our business in order, so we can continue not just to survive but thrive and enjoy what lies beyond. As you said, Paul, we don't know whether it's a new normal or the next normal, but there is something out there to look forward to, I'm sure, for every single one of us. And I encourage any of our listeners, my clients who are business owners, if they haven't got their affairs in order, to absolutely plan for change, to expect change to come. And I think 2020 and into 2021 has really shown all of us that. So Paul, really do appreciate your time this lunchtime.
I appreciate you having me. I'm just glad that we can have a little chat and have this little coaching session for today. Thank you very much indeed.
It's great. Thank you, Paul. Thank you for joining us. And if you're want to find out more about either Accord Legal Services or Action Coach, our details have been on the screen. I'll put those on again in a moment. Here at Action Coach, we are really keen to help and support as many local businesses as we can each and every week. We offer a free business health check, a free coaching session, free lunch and learn webinars, which you're logged into right now. And also we have our 30X program, which is 15 hours of online learning for just £30 a week. So if you're interested in that, it's 30 short half-hour videos of how you can build and expand and promote your business. So we'd love to have a conversation with you about that as well. Please do get in touch. Here are our contact details. Here's Paul's contact details. If you're listening to us on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn after the hour is finished today, maybe in delay, please do still reach out to us. Please use Paul's contact details, my own contact details. Please do reach out, ask any questions, and we would both be delighted to have that conversation and get in touch with you. Paul, while you and I have been on air, we mentioned Captain Tonmore yesterday. I see that Boris is talking about or encouraging us all to do a clap at 6 o'clock. So, he's a great guy who's done a lot for this country, hasn't he, over the last 12 months in terms of giving us that beacon of hope. And so I know that I certainly will be on my doorstep clapping at 6 o'clock, and I'm sure you will as well, Paul. But, it's just highlighted to us, the importance of being together, supporting each other and working together to get through this. And for me, reaching out and supporting and finding that support that's out there for you, every single day, every single week. So, I encourage you to clap at 6 o'clock, to commemorate a real, shining hero for this country. And, I would welcome you and encourage you to do that. And also to keep well, stay safe. And thank you again to Paul from Accord Legal Services for joining us today. And we look forward to catching up with you on Monday. We have another guest with us on Monday. And again, next Wednesday, talking to another business owner about their journey over the last 12 months. But for now, stay well, stay safe. And we look forward to seeing you Monday at 12 o'clock. Take care now.
Thanks.